4 hours ago at 2 o'clock our time, 9 o'clock Moscow time. It's the evening news show, the most watched newscast possibly in the world, but at least in Moscow, News One from Soviet television.
This is News One from Moscow. You're listening to simultaneous interpretation from the Russian by John Glad. Good evening. The only thing people are talking about today are the new free prices. Together with the buyers, our correspondents visited stores to do a little bit of spy work. A number of stores in Nizhny Novgorod and Omsk were closed down, supposedly for inventory taking. There is bread, milk, and kefir, which is like yogurt in the stores, but there's no meat, cheese, or butter, as there wasn't before. In Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky, there are the cream cheese is 8 to 120 rubles per kilogram, very different. We have lamb going for 200 rubles a kilo, beef for 250. So we can see the charms of free prices. When things are bad, people swear. When they get really bad, they start laughing. We found only one gasoline tank where we saw a price. 93 octane was a ruble 20 per liter. In a taxi, we see the meter is being charged 10 times what the meter shows. In food, we couldn't find any consumer goods in this store, but in food stores, we found some milk, some sausage products, and sales girls running away. We saw chickens, processed cheese, and sausage. But here we did see meat patties for $2.36 and brains, which are somewhat frozen. But the employees didn't know what they would be selling tomorrow, and they had no idea what things would cost. So the suppliers will be arriving and will determine what the prices will be. Economists are predicting that prices will be rushing ahead at cosmic speed. We're hoping to fill the shelves, but we think that the amount of currency might just sweep out all the goods. Even canned meat is going at 100 rubles a tin. It looks like there was no preparation. No, there was preparation for this freeing up of prices. We tried to work on the very mechanism itself. This is very unusual for us. If we want to speak about intervention in the form of putting more goods on the shelves, we need not have any special illusions here. We had no special reserves. If necessary, we might take extraordinary measures. We're talking opening our state reserves, even our mobilization reserves. If we speak about Moscow and Leningrad, we're supposed to get a large amount of humanitarian aid from Europe. So I think that we will try to fill up the stores after we get a balance between prices and goods. I understand that the introduction of free prices is not a goal in and of itself. What are you going to do if it doesn't work? No, we will have things to sell. Things will work out. We can tolerate things. We can get along with regard to food. But remember a quote. We have become free from labor, and we have now left only one political goal. That was what the 19th century writer Saltykov-Shchedrin 100 years ago said. So if we can say that same thing today, but we can increase it by a factor. We hope that the entrepreneurial spirit in trade will not overtax our patients, and we don't have to. We will survive. We've seen worse things. We will survive, but we have to support each other. This is News One in Russian. It's clear that our neighbors will also have to change prices. The Ukraine is introducing coupons as of the 10th of January and has spent, according to our correspondent Kuchmenko, has spent $20 million, and they're printing them abroad so that the ruble and the United Ruble space will be having a hard time of it very soon. On a competitive basis, the firm ISB and the bank printing company from Paris displayed miracles of entrepreneurialism. They realized that they had to fill the order very quickly in a month and a half. No one even discussed quality. That was taken for granted. The French were troubled by a different thing, the question of a deadline. For that reason, ISB developed a blitz strategy to print these Ukrainian coupons. They were printed in 7 printing houses of France. You're amazed at the limitless entrepreneurial nature of the French. The initial issues were signed in special trains, which delivered Ukrainian bankers, together with the head banker, Mr. Matvienko from Ukraine, to France, where the coupons were being printed. Talking to me, the French several times repeated their famous sentence. One of their famous sentences: "We don't earn enough money to have anything to do with cheap things." We might take this printing press, for example, which is the most expensive, they totally computerized. The logic is simple. The expense is compensated for by the absence of any inaccuracies. For example, in the luminescent ink which is being used. Here you see the French typesetter, or typist worker. He has dipped his fingers into this luminescent paint, and you can't see anything on his fingers, but he has only to take his hand over to a special lamp, and you will see a bright yellow color on his fingers. And that same process will take place with regard to in the coupons which are going to be issued. It's considered by leading European experts, the foragers don't have any chances. And moreover, the French coupons have other very essential qualities, such as water marks, special metal sprinklings, and the so-called carbovagnettes, which is the new unit, will look very much similar to the national Ukrainian currency. In Uzbekistan, as in Ukraine, they're also introducing a coupon system. President Karimov promised that by the 9th, everyone who was supposed to would receive coupons. The minimal salary would be 500 rubles. It would be a 100% coupons. After that, there would be a reduced amount of coupons issued. And that will be done tomorrow. So it looks like, according to in Belarusia, the chief goal of the coupon system is not to sell goods, but to accumulate them on the store shelves. So they've decided to issue as many coupons as they have goods, but nobody believes in this ideal variation, neither the people nor the government, because the task of printing 100 million coupons in a month is impossible, because there's not enough paper and there's not enough printing capacity. The saving bank of the USSR has stopped existing, but the savers can be calm, since when the savings booklets are reissued, within 2 months, the savers will be compensated thanks to the sale of the assets of the state bank. In Tbilisi, according to the Rio press agency, after an attempt to storm the government, the positions remain in their former positions, but at 4:30 a.m., supplementing this information from TESS, there was an intensive shooting up of Gamsakhurdia's residence. The residents did not answer in fire. Just an hour ago, we received the latest piece of news, from which it follows that according to Georgian television, the government is in the hands of the opposition. Today, the president and the parliament were declared, it was declared they would be eliminated. And Kingiz Kitovani and Jaba Asiliani would head the new government. This was information from TASS received by an amateur news agency, but we have no other confirmation from Tbilisi. The prime minister is Kingiz Sigua, and it is there will be preparation taking place for the new elections. There's a curfew been introduced from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. According to the opposition, all state structures are obligated to fulfill the task assigned them by the military council. The new government will be handed all power within the republic. Nevertheless, there is no confirmation as to the taking of the government, of the residence of the head of state and the head of state himself, Mr. Gamsakhoria. We have no confirmation. So in this church of St. George, there was a wake served for the victims of the tragic events which took place in Tbilisi. We, Orthodox Christians from Georgia, are people who consider that these people who have begun this fratricidal war have turned away from God and are not concerned with the interests of the Georgian people. Democracy should not mean anarchy and chaos. Homeland is not an artifact of territory, but is a continuity of memory and blood. These remarkable words from my homeland caused me to remember the pain of my people. This is the body of Prince Bagration was buried there. I believe that our people will find in themselves the wisdom to survive these difficulties. So border problems. In the near future, border troops stationed in Moldova will be subordinated to the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Security. That was according to the Minister Anatol Plugara. As regards the reunification of Moldova and Romania, he said that this would happen sooner or later. According to Interfax, Leonard Petrosyan in Nagorno-Karabakh has asked for recognition of the Armenian population and asked that UN troops be sent to Nagorno-Karabakh to prevent the forthcoming genocide of the Armenians in this area. We should assume that this step was preceded by actions by the Azerbaijani leadership. There was introduced presidential rule in certain areas of Azerbaijan that was according to President Mutalibov. It was introduced in regard to the territory within the city of Khankindi, close to Stepanakert, and in Shushinsk and other areas. So we can assume that this will introduce or call forth resistance of the most serious nature from the Armenian population. Today, Marshal Shaposhnik arrived in Minsk. He will likewise visit the Ukraine, Azerbaijan, Moldova, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan. According to the statement of the independent states which are meeting in Minsk, there should be no negotiations between the former republics which have declared their desire to create their own armed forces. In the program Vesti, and according to Mr. Musakov in St. Petersburg, Mayor Sobchak of Petersburg has submitted his resignation. According to the mayor's office, however, Mr. Sobchak has never submitted any such resignation. There is no grounds for such a statement, and that is what we hear from the mayor's office, a denial of this claim that he had resigned. In Warsaw, we have a curious document published. Its authors, economists, have declared that privatization is gaining speed, but this takes place under conditions of indifference on the part of the workers. This is intensification of privatization. So this is what is ahead for our country, but we are only in the first stage. But the handing over of 75% of state stores and service points over 2 years for a normal consumer took place painlessly in Poland. Why not? They have their own goods, they have imported goods, there are no lines. The politeness in the stores has increased. Of course, if it hadn't been for the firmness of the local authorities, privatization might have led to a circus. After all, it's more profitable to sell vodka and jeans than vegetables. But nothing of the sort happened. The local authorities, in selling off the stores, demanded the condition that the stores retain their former character. There are even more stores in Poland. They're even complaining there's not enough store space. And there are new stores, booths, pavilions are growing up springing up like mushrooms after the rain. And this is the privatization of trade. In Hungary, the question of historical justice has been raised. The question of compensation to former property owners who were deprived of their rights in 1949 has been raised. Also, the question of raised pensions for those who suffered politically. The Hungarians are likewise interested in Soviet-Hungarian relations, since the former Soviet Union was the chief market for Hungary, and this could have very serious consequences for Hungary. Likewise, the financial consequences and procedures for Soviet troop withdrawal is a topic. The Hungarians are very pleased over the scope of our changes, but they're somewhat anxious over the speed. Political scientists are at a loss as to what to predict. The BBC has stated that as of today, German citizens have the right to receive their personal files from the Stasi secret police. One dissident discovered that his own wife had turned him in or denounced him. It was expected, however, there'd be a lot more requests than there actually have been received, since there are roughly 6 million personal files. The goal of Mr. Bush's visit to Australia is a struggle for honest trade, but the Australian farmers are of a different opinion. In subsidizing American farmers, Bush might make uncompetitive the agricultural exports of other countries. In the United States, there is an economic recession, and the growing shortage of working space is relegating other problems to the background. So we have to be concerned about the role of other countries in foreign trade. Here we have a demonstration in Sydney of farmers who are demonstrating their concern. It's easy to destroy export, they consider. Bush's promise to reduce military presence is not viewed as a serious level of compensation. The only consolation for the Australians might be the fact that the American president will not be able to cope with the Japanese as easily as with them. American automobile firms, this is the auto show in Washington, they're concerned over the Japanese. If 20% of the autos sold in the U.S. were 20% were foreign 10 years ago, now it's almost 33%. The most popular model is Honda. In Washington, here we see the traditional automobile show, which was an anniversary date, the 50th show. There were 40 firms which demonstrated for the public 500 of their latest models. The chief demand, which is for cars of 92, is reliability. Likewise, high ecological requirements. All that is taken into account by designers of the leading companies, such as Mercedes-Benz. This model has a motor with 12 cylinders. There are likewise cars for millionaires. For example, this Pontiac, which even has a special rear-view video camera. Its price, this car of the future, has yet to be established. At the show, there's likewise one motorcycle. It was driven by Arnold Schwarzenegger in the film Terminator 2: Judgment Day. This film is considered to have been the most expensive in the history of Hollywood. Its budget was $90 million. The organizers of the show considered that this was the best advertisement. Today, in the capital of Bosnia-Herzegovina, Sarajevo, Cyrus Vance arrived as an emissary of the UN. He spoke with Croatian representatives and the Yugoslav army and discussed the station of UN troops in crisis areas in Croatia. We have a worsening of the situation in the occupied Arab territories. After a bomb was placed by terrorists, hundreds of Israeli Jewish settlers protested and demanded tighter controls. The minister declared there would be introduced units of civil defense. It would appear that in Northern Ireland, arson and explosions are an inalienable part of life. In Belfast, there was an incendiary bomb laid. No one died, but the store suffered a good deal, and likewise other stores close to it. It is attributed to the notorious IRA, the Irish Republican Army. More than 200 terrorist acts have taken place as of late. This is the latest terrorist act, but this time in South Africa. 6 bombs were laid in a secondary school where only white pupils could study, but the administration decided to open the doors of the school to colored students and black students. That led to indignation on the part of many whites, and then a bomb was put in this excessively progressive school. The damage was $780,000 US. There were no casualties since there was no school on that day. And one more piece of information which we've received from our video information exchange service. It has to do with the holidays. Over the last 2 days, the whole world has been celebrating the New Year. In California, we see the 103rd New Year's parade, which was organized on a truly American scale. There were 1 million people came to the parade, and tens of millions saw it on television. So we have a long way to go before we can arrange such shows. But according to the Russian Federation, we have some good news. The day of rest has been moved from the 2nd of January to the 4th of January. People can either take the day off or they can take work that day and get double pay. And they can likewise use this day and attach it to their normal rest holidays, vacation holidays. That is according to Mr. Bourboulous. This is the 16th Winter Olympic Games, 16th Olympic Winter Games. We believe that in the next year our best athletes have a chance for Olympic victories. And summing up the last year, let's remember our high points. We see hope on the part of the Olympics swimmers, who are recognized even by the American swimmers who are the best, the leaders. Admirers of volleyball will remember very well these exciting moments when the team of Vyacheslav Platonovic won the World Cup. And this is our team of heavy athletes. The first place was received in light athletics in Barcelona. The skaters had more modest hope, but Igor Zhelezovsky demonstrated his ability in becoming once more champion of Europe. Best of the best is Yelena Vyalpe in her competition for the World Cup. And of course, the most famous is Sergei Bubko. This year, for 7 times, he improved the world record. Most of the observers in the world consider him to be the world's top athlete. The latest news from our teletype, our team of juniors in hockey have beat the U.S. team 5-1 and are leading with a score of 10. Sweden beat Germany 10-1. The international chess team competition gathered 10 grandmasters, and the names of the grandmasters should be included in the Guinness Book of World Records. The 106th game of Kasparov of Karpov took place. It was a tie. After 5 playoffs, Gelfind and Anand are leading with 3.5. Kasparov and Karpov have won. In Bremen, our women's volleyball team beat the Cubans in 5 games. In the rally Paris-Cape Town, the column had to have military protection because of military attacks. Here they went to the capital of Jamea, and now they're moving toward the city of Sam. The Austrian Heinz Kierkegaard had to push his motorcycle because he ran out of gas. Stefan Petro, riding a Yamaika, and Ibor Orio was on a Mitsubishi. We're leading here. Here's the weather coming up now. In Estonia, it's +1 to +6 with rain at Celsius. In Latvia and Lithuania, +3 to +8. In Belarus, it's +1 to +6 with some precipitation. Ukraine, +1 to +6. In the east, 0 to -5. Armenia, -2 to -7. A little bit of snow. Turkmenistan, +7 to +12. Kazakhstan, -13, -18. In the south, -2 to -7. In Novosibirsk and Tomsk, it's -13 to -18. Also the Altai region. In Krasnoyarsk, it's -13 to -18. -15 to -20. In Irkutsk, -10 to -15. In Yakutia, it's -43 to -48. That is Fahrenheit, roughly 50 below zero. In the Kuril Islands, it's 0 to -5. In Chukotka, -36 to -41. I can't believe that cold. In St. Petersburg, +3 to +5. A little bit of precipitation. Moscow, 0 to -2. Some precipitation. And this has been simultaneous interpretation from the Russian by John Glad. You've been listening to a program of the Informational Television Agency.
C-SPAN, the cable